Hi, today we're going to talk about balancing your hormones. I'm going to touch on 3 strategic areas where you can address simple things that you can do at home to improve your hormonal balance. This will be particularly important if you are a person living with PCOS, but if you have another hormonal condition, these strategies, tips will help you as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the 3 key areas first. Number 1 is gut health. And a lot of people overlook gut health when we're talking about hormones, but most of your hormones are produced in the gut, and a lot of excess hormones are eliminated through your gut through going to the bathroom. So it's important to have a healthy gut. Number 2 is to address and prevent insulin resistance. Now, if you have PCOS, you know that insulin resistance is an intrinsic part of having polycystic ovarian syndrome. For other hormonal conditions, it can be an underlying problem and it certainly won't help. So you want to do everything you can to reduce your risk for insulin resistance and correct it when you already have it. And number 3 is to eliminate environmental stressors. Now, this is different from emotional stress or work stress, life stress. We're talking about things in your home or in your daily routine that actually stress and tax your endocrine system, the system that makes your hormones. So let's now break it down into actionable tips that you can use today. Let's start with gut health. So, as I said before, a healthy, happy gut is going to help you create and eliminate hormones easier. So, 3 simple ways that you can improve your gut health are: number 1, start putting more variety into your diet, especially if you can add in more fermented foods. Fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurts, they introduce new bacteria to your gut microbiome, and a diverse gut microbiome is what you want if you want healthy hormones. And another way to ensure that you have a diverse microbiome is to have a wide variety of plant foods in your diet. So going to the farmer's market and eating whatever is in season is an awesome strategy instead of going out and buying the same vegetables, the same fruits over and over again, because you will have you could develop an imbalance in your gut bacteria, because the gut bacteria that like to eat the things that you eat will thrive while other ones will struggle. Now, when you go further into looking into balancing your gut bacteria, another great strategy is to do a simple 12-hour fast every day. So some gut bacteria thrive and proliferate when you're not eating and when your gut is empty. So having just an easy 12 hours where you don't have anything in your stomach every day is a great strategy. So that could be just as simple as having your last meal at 7 p.m. dinner and having breakfast the next morning at 7 a.m. For most people, that's not really intermittent fasting. That's just kind of being a little conscientious about late night eating. And that'll help you also control late night snack binges as well. So happy gut, and you're cutting out some late night snacking that you maybe didn't need anyway. And the third strategy is eating organic. And I know this can be tough if you live in a food desert or if you are grocery shopping on a budget, but eating organic can help your gut health because the pesticides introduced on your produce and in your animal-based proteins can actually wipe out some of the bacteria in your gut. So tips for going organic on a budget are to focus maybe on what the Environmental Working Group calls the Dirty Dozen. And these are the most pesticide-laden fruits and vegetables. So maybe just committing to buying those organic is a way to help out with your budget. And another thing, which is the strategy that I use, is I look at the foods that we eat more often and I make sure that we buy those organic. So we eat a lot of grilled chicken breasts in the summer, which is summer right now. So I'm going out and I'm looking for the best priced organic chicken breast I can find and buying it in bulk, because I know that I'm eating a lot of it. And if we were eating that in a non-organic form, we would be consuming a lot of those potential environmental toxins in mass, because that is a food that we're eating frequently right now. Okay, so eating organic, eating a wide variety of foods, especially fermented foods, and doing that 12-hour fast. Now, boom, we've got a healthier gut already, and you're making and eliminating hormones better. We're just that much closer to hormonal balance naturally. So let's move on and talk about insulin resistance. Now, I'm not going to get into explaining insulin resistance in this video. I have other videos that cover that. Basically, insulin resistance is when your cells are not very responsive to the hormone insulin. And insulin is responsible for metabolizing carbohydrates and sugar, along with a lot of different other key factors. And if your cells aren't responding properly to insulin, you have insulin rising in your bloodstream, and that affects other hormones. In particular, it aggravates your ovaries, and your ovaries start producing more androgens, testosterone, for example. So we want to keep our insulin levels at an appropriate place, especially if you have PCOS, because we are at risk for insulin resistance. So my I have 4 tips for you on how to manage and prevent insulin resistance are: number 1, strength training. And recent research studies, when they looked at all the different research studies done on people with PCOS who were exercising, strength training was one of the most effective ways to, on a long-term scale, prevent and sort of stave off insulin resistance, because you're raising your metabolic rate by adding more lean mass, and muscle mass consumes glucose at a higher rate and also needs more insulin. So it's keeping glucose and insulin out of the bloodstream and in your muscle cells where it belongs. And also, strength training is the best way to lower androgens as far as exercise goes. And I have a video that I'll link to about that here somewhere. Click the button if you want to listen to that video. Okay, so then next, let's talk about sugars and carbohydrates. We know that that's interconnected to our insulin balance. And what I want you to do, just as a simple way to get started on better nutrition for decreasing your insulin resistance, is just to pay attention to added sugars. Added sugars are sugars that have been put into your food products. They're not naturally occurring sugars. So when you're just starting out, you don't need to overfocus on the sugars in fruits and bananas and carrots and natural intact foods. What you are trying to avoid or reduce is added sugars. And at least in the US now, our nutrition labels will actually tell you in a processed food how many added sugars are in a food. And if you see a food that's getting into the double digits, really anything over about 9 grams, really think twice about consuming it. And if you do, you want to limit your consumption to an appropriate amount and infrequently. You don't want added sugars to be a regular part of your diet as much as you can help it. Number 3 of my tips for reducing insulin resistance is to sleep enough. Studies have consistently shown that sleep deprivation is correlated with insulin resistance. So people who do not get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night are much more likely to become or already be insulin resistant. And sleep deprivation messes with your sex hormones too. I'm not going to get into that right now, but just to say sleep is important for hormone health, not just insulin resistance. And the final suggestion, especially if you have PCOS, is to test out and investigate the use of insulin sensitizing supplements. 2 that come to mind that have a lot of research to support their use in PCOS are NAC, NAC, and I'll write out the full technical name of NAC in my comments somewhere. I can't pronounce it. I always sound silly when I do. It's like N-acetylcholine. I think I said that right. And inositol. In particular, a blend of 40-to-1 of D-chiro and myo-inositol. Both of those have been shown time and time again to safely help women and people living with PCOS increase their insulin sensitivity. So those are 2 great choices for you. And in fact, they seem to work as well as the drug metformin to address insulin resistance in PCOS. Now let's talk about environmental stressors. Again, like I said before, this is an emotional stress, although that definitely can affect your hormonal balance. But today we're talking about environmental stressors. So these are elements in your home, office, the places you frequent that are causing hormonal reactions in your body. So the first is additives in your personal care products, your shampoo, your laundry detergent, your lotions. All of those various care products present chemicals in them unless they're all natural and organic, right? Some of those chemicals are actually antimicrobial. So again, getting back to gut health, you could be putting on a lotion that has like an antifungal, antimicrobial element in it, and you're putting it on your hands and it's getting in your mouth, and now it's in your gut and it's messing up with your gut health. But also other things like sulfites and endocrine disruptors. And these are particular chemicals that get inside your body through your skin or through your mouth when you touch your mouth after having used a personal care product. And they mimic your hormones and send signals back to your brain that could throw off your hormonal balance if you're exposed to enough of them. So I would just recommend that as you run out of a personal care product, if it is not an all-natural, organic, sort of really simple form of that product, that you just go ahead and switch. Some great examples are switching from antibacterial soap to a Castile soap, switching from a lotion to just fractionated coconut oil, which works amazing right out of the shower. You can put it on when you're wet and your skin absorbs it right up, and you can add some essential oils to it if you like scents. Perfume, replacing your perfume with blends of essential oils instead of alcohol-based perfumes is another good example. And number 2 for eliminating environmental toxins is plastics. In particular, cooking your foods in plastics is a bad idea. What could happen is chemicals out of the plastics can leach into your food. In particular, BPA is the one you hear people talk about a lot, and that's a petroleum byproduct that mimics hormones when it's inside your body, and again, it throws off those signals. So BPA-free plastics are slightly better, but never cook in any type of plastic. In fact, if you can avoid eating out of plastic altogether, I would recommend it. Stick with glass and stainless steel instead. That's also better for the environment as far as I can tell. So it's a double win. And the third environmental stressor that I want you to start thinking about, and this is a tough one, is blue light. So the light coming off of your phones, your computers, your television, especially late at night. Those sort of prime the brain to stay up later, and that messes with your sleep, which can make your sex hormones and your insulin resistance worse. But it also can stimulate cortisol, which is a hormone that you want to have balanced as well in your body. And you want to have more cortisol in the morning and for it to drop off as the day goes on because it's your stimulating awake hormone. So if you are exposing yourself to a lot of artificial light at night, think about switching out your light bulbs to low blue light bulbs and maybe upstairs in your bedroom. That's what I've done right here. Limiting the amount that you use your phone for entertainment because you're putting blue light right in your face, even though a lot of technology now has kind of a way to turn down the blue light. You should definitely turn that feature on in your apps of your iOS phones, and I think Android has a version of that too. And then of course TV and the computer. So seeking out new ways to entertain yourself once the sun goes down that don't involve blue light is an awesome trick for getting better sleep and better hormones, and probably reading more books, which, hey, like, I don't know about you, but I like reading, and makes me feel a little bit smarter when I'm reading instead of watching TV. I don't know if that's just, my own personal brand of self-righteousness or something, I don't know. But I have backed away from using TV as a nighttime entertainment source. Instead, I'm going outside and walking, or I'm taking a bath, or I'm reading. And I found at first it was a little difficult to let go of TV, but now it doesn't even faze me that I'm not using technology at night. And if I really, really want to, I let myself. It's not gonna ruin you to have a little blue light at night. And there's also blue light blocking kind of like glasses you can buy just on Amazon if, for whatever reason it's necessary for you to use a lot of technology after the sun goes down. Okay, so those are my tips for balancing your hormones right now. You don't have to wait for a doctor's appointment. You don't have to buy a ton of fancy stuff if you don't want to. Of course, there's things that you can buy that would make doing this easier. So think about your gut, think about insulin resistance, and think about those environmental stressors and try as best you can to address them through these 10 action steps. If you want more doable, common sense ways to thrive and feel awesome, even if you have PCOS, you should subscribe to this channel. I try to keep it evidence-based, I try to keep it practical, and more than anything, I try to keep you optimistic because it's tough living with PCOS, but you can feel awesome and thrive. I promise you that.